I thought I'd hit rock bottom before. Failed exams, rejected job applications, even that time I accidentally sent a text meant for my mom to my boss. But nothing, absolutely nothing prepared me for this moment. I sat on the bathroom floor of my tiny apartment, mascara running down my face, my phone clutched in one trembling hand. The engagement ring box sat open on the counter, mocking me with its empty velvet interior. 3 years. 3 years of my life with Derek, and he just texted me to say he couldn't go through with it. I'm sorry, Em. I met someone else. I thought I could ignore it, but I can't. You deserve better than someone who's thinking about another person. I'm leaving the apartment. Keep everything. I'm so sorry. Keep everything. Like our relationship was a yard sale, and he was just walking away from unwanted furniture. My hands shook as I dialed the only person I could think of. The phone rang once, twice, Emma. What's wrong? His voice came through immediately, alert despite it being nearly midnight. My voice broke. Can you come over, please? I'm on my way. That was Ryan, my best friend since college. The person who'd been there through every disaster, every triumph, every random Tuesday when I just needed someone to watch bad reality TV with. He didn't ask questions, didn't need explanations. He just came. I don't know how long I sat there on the cold tile floor before I heard my apartment door open. I'd given Ryan a spare key years ago after I'd locked myself out for the 3rd time. Emma. His voice echoed through the apartment. Bathroom, I managed to croak out. The door opened slowly, and then Ryan was there, his tall frame filling the doorway. He took one look at me, mascara-strict face, red eyes, crumpled on the floor, and his expression shifted from concern to something darker, angrier. What did he do? Ryan's voice was low, controlled, but I could hear the fury underneath. I held up my phone, unable to speak. He took it, read the message, and I watched his jaw clench. For a moment, he just stood there. I could practically see him fighting the urge to hunt Derek down. Then he set the phone aside, knelt down beside me, and pulled me into his arms. That's when I completely fell apart. I woke up in my bed, still wearing yesterday's clothes, with no memory of how I got there. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, and for one blissful second, I forgot. Then, reality crashed back, and with it, the crushing weight of betrayal. The smell of coffee drifted from the kitchen. Coffee and ... bacon? I stumbled out of bed, catching sight of myself in the mirror. I looked exactly like someone who'd cried herself to sleep, puffy eyes, tangled hair, mascara smudges I'd missed. Perfect. In the kitchen, Ryan stood at the stove, flipping pancakes like he owned the place. He'd changed out of last night's clothes into a t-shirt and jeans he must have kept here from one of our movie marathons. His dark hair was messy, and there were tired lines around his eyes that made me realize he probably hadn't slept much. You're awake, he said, looking up with a gentle smile. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck, I admitted, sliding onto a bar stool, driven by my ex-fiancée. That's fair. He slid a plate of pancakes in front of me. Eat. You need energy for the trash-talking Derek portion of today's program. Despite everything, I felt a small smile tug at my lips. You made pancakes and bacon. And I found that fancy coffee you only bring out for special occasions. I figured getting dumped by a coward via text counts as special, even if it's in the worst way possible. I stared at the food, then at Ryan, and felt tears building again. Why are you so good to me? He paused, spatula in hand, and something flickered across his face, something I couldn't quite read. Because you're my best friend, Em. That's what we do. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. Ryan had always been good at knowing when I needed to talk and when I just needed presence. After my second pancake, I finally felt ready to speak. I should have seen it coming, I said quietly. He'd been distant for months, always working late, always on his phone. I thought we were going through a rough patch, that the proposal would fix things. Emma. Ryan's voice was firm. None of this is your fault. Derek's a coward and an idiot. You don't fix a relationship by proposing, you fix it by communicating, by showing up, by being honest. He did none of those things. But maybe if I'd been more stop. He reached across the counter and took my hand. I'm going to say this once, and I need you to really hear it. You are smart, funny, beautiful, and kind. You light up every room you walk into. You remember everyone's coffee order and their birthdays. You cry at dog food commercials and laugh at terrible puns. You're the kind of person who brings soup to sick coworkers even when you barely know them. Derek didn't deserve you. He never did. I stared at our joined hands, his words washing over me. You have to say that. You're my best friend.
Yes.
I don't have to say anything, he said quietly. I'm saying it because it's true. The next few days passed in a blur. Ryan had taken time off work to stay with me, claiming he had vacation days to burn. We fell into a routine mornings started with elaborate breakfasts he insisted on making. Days were filled with mindless TV and the occasional walk around the neighborhood, and nights ended with us talking until I finally fell asleep. On day 3, I finally worked up the courage to go through Derek's things that he'd left behind. Ryan offered to do it for me, but I needed this closure, needed to reclaim my space. We were in the bedroom, sorting through drawers, when I found it. A small notebook, tucked away in the back of Derek's nightstand. I almost tossed it in the donation box without looking, but something made me open it. It was a journal, Derek's journal, and as I flipped through the pages, my stomach dropped. Emma. What is it? Ryan looked up from the box he was packing. I couldn't speak. I just handed him the journal, opened to a page dated 6 months ago. Ryan read aloud, his voice growing colder with each word. Met someone at the conference today, Sarah. She laughed at all my jokes. Made me feel seen in a way Emma hasn't in years. I know I should feel guilty, but I don't. Just feel alive. He flipped forward. Told Sarah about the engagement. She said if I really loved Emma, I wouldn't be here with her. She's right. But I can't break Emma's heart. Maybe if I just go through with the wedding, these feelings will fade. Ryan closed the journal with more force than necessary. That absolute, there's more, I said numbly, taking the journal back. I read silently, each entry worse than the last. Plans to meet Sarah in secret. Debates about whether to call off the engagement. And finally, the last entry dated 2 days before he texted me, can't do this anymore. Have to tell Emma. She deserves the truth, even if I'm too much of a coward to say it to her face. At least he got that last part right, I said bitterly. He is a coward. Ryan was pacing now, running his hands through his hair in that way he did when he was trying not to explode. 6 months. He was cheating on you for 6 months and let you plan a wedding. I'm going to kill him. I'm actually going to Ryan. I grabbed his arm, stopping him mid-pace. It's not worth it. He's not worth it. But you are, Ryan said fiercely, turning to face me. You're worth so much more than this, Emma. You're worth someone who chooses you every single day, not someone who settles for you while pining for someone else. I looked up at him, really looked at him. His green eyes were blazing with anger on my behalf. His jaw was set. There was something else there. Too. Something protective and fierce and ... I shook my head, pushing the thought away. The last thing I needed right now was to overanalyze my best friend's expression. Help me get rid of all of this, I said instead. Every last trace of him. I want it gone. Now that, Ryan said with a grim smile, I can do. 2 weeks after the text, as I'd come to call it, I was finally starting to feel human again. Ryan had gone back to his own apartment, at my insistence, but came over every day after work. We'd order takeout, watch movies, and slowly, I was beginning to remember who I was before Derek. One Friday night, Ryan showed up with a bottle of wine and a determined expression. We're going out, he announced. What? No, Ryan, I'm not ready not to a bar or a club, he interrupted. Remember that pottery class you always wanted to take? The one Derek said was a waste of money? Well, I signed us up. Class starts in an hour. I stared at him. You signed us up for a pottery class? Yup. And before you protest, it's non-refundable, so you're coming. An hour later, we were sitting at pottery wheels, covered in clay, laughing so hard I could barely breathe. My bowl looked like a sad, lopsided mushroom. Ryan's looked even worse. It had collapsed entirely, and he was trying to resurrect it with increasingly desperate measures. "I think it's dead," I said, watching him attempt to reshape the clay blob. "It's not dead. It's abstract," he insisted, but he was grinning. "This is actually harder than it looks. You think?" I tried to center my clay again, but it wobbled dangerously. How do people make this look easy? "Years of practice, and probably magic," Ryan said. "But hey, at least we're failing together." I looked around at the other students, most of whom were actually creating recognizable objects, then back at our disaster wheels. And suddenly, I was laughing again, a real genuine laughter that came from somewhere deep in my chest. Ryan watched me with soft eyes. "There she is," he said quietly. "I've missed that laugh." "I've missed it too," I admitted. "Thank you for this. For everything. I don't know how I would have survived the past 2 weeks without you." "You would have survived," he said. "You're stronger than you think. But I'm glad I could be here anyway." As we cleaned up our failed pottery attempts, the instructor came over. She was an older woman, with kind eyes and clay-stained hands. "First time?" she asked, smiling. "That obvious?" I said ruefully. "Everyone's first attempts look like that," she assured us. "But you know what I noticed? You two were laughing the entire time. That's rarer than you'd think. Most couples who come in are so focused on making something perfect that they forget to enjoy the process." "We're not," I started. "Just friends," Ryan finished. But something in his voice sounded off. The instructor just smiled knowingly. "Well, you're lucky to have a friend who looks at you the way he does." As she walked away, I turned to Ryan. "What did she mean by that?" "No idea," he said quickly, not meeting my eyes. "Ready to go?" "I'm starving." That night, after we'd gotten dinner and returned to my apartment, I couldn't shake the instructor's words. I watched Ryan as he made us coffee, moving around my kitchen like he'd done it 1,000 times because he had. "Ryan," I said slowly, "can I ask you something?" "Always," he said, handing me a mug. "Why didn't you have a girlfriend?" He nearly dropped his own mug. "What? I mean, you're great. You're kind, funny, successful. You know how to make pancakes and you voluntarily sign up for pottery classes. Why are you single?" He was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful. "I guess I just... haven't found the right person. But you must have options. What about Sarah from your office?" "She's always flirting with you." "Sarah's nice," he said noncommittally. "Or what about that girl from the gym? The one who asked you out last month?" "Emma, why are you so interested in my love life all of a sudden?" "Because you're my best friend, and I want you to be happy," I said. And I just realized that in all the time I was with Derek, I never really asked about what you wanted. I was so wrapped up in my own relationship drama that I never stopped to think about yours. "I am happy," Ryan said quietly. "Right here, right now. I'm happy, but don't you want more? Don't you want what I had minus the cheating and the cowardice, obviously? Don't you want someone to come home to?" He set down his mug and turned to face me fully. There was something in his expression that made my breath catch something vulnerable and raw. "Emma, I need to tell you something." My heart started beating faster. "Okay." He ran a hand through his hair, that nervous gesture I knew so well. "I wasn't entirely honest earlier." "About why I'm single? What do you mean?" "I said I haven't found the right person, but that's not true." He took a deep breath. "I found her. I found her 8 years ago in a college literature class when she sat down next to me and asked if she could borrow a pen. And I've been in love with her ever since." The world seemed to tilt. "Ryan, let me finish, please." His green eyes met mine, and they were filled with years of unspoken emotion. "I know the timing is terrible. You just got out of a relationship, you're healing, and the last thing you need is your best friend dumping this on you. But that pottery instructor today, the way she looked at me, I realized I'm tired of hiding it. I'm tired of watching you be with people who don't deserve you. I'm tired of pretending that being your friend is enough when every day I want more. Couldn't think how long. How long have I been in love with you?" He laughed, but it was sad. "Always, Emma. From the moment you borrowed that pen and never gave it back. From every late-night study session every terrible movie marathon, every time you called me first when something good or bad happened. I've been in love with you through every boyfriend. Through Derek's proposal, through watching you plan a wedding to someone else, and I kept quiet because your happiness mattered more than my feelings. Why didn't you say anything? I whispered. Because you were happy, or I thought you were, and I couldn't be the selfish friend who ruined that. He moved closer, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his green eyes. But Emma, Derek was right about one thing. You do deserve better. You deserve someone who chooses you first, who never makes you doubt how they feel, who looks at you like you're the best thing that ever happened to them. You deserve someone who knows how you take your coffee, who remembers that you hate cilantro, who knows that you watch Pride and Prejudice when you're sad and Love Actually when you're happy. You know, all those things. I said, my voice barely audible.
I know.
He said softly, because I've been paying attention for 8 years. I didn't know what to say. My brain was overloading, trying to reprocess 8 years of friendship through this new lens. Every memory suddenly had a different context every time Ryan had been there for me. Every coffee he'd brought me, every late-night conversation. Say something, Ryan said, and I could hear the fear in his voice. Please, Emma. Even if it's to tell me I've ruined everything. I don't. I started, then stopped. I need to think. Pain flashed across his face, but he nodded. Of course, take all the time you need. I'll go. No. I grabbed his arm as he turned to leave. Don't go. Just give me a minute. I walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. My mind was racing. Ryan, my best friend Ryan. In love with me for 8 years, I thought about Derek, about how I'd felt with him. Safe, comfortable, settled. But had I been in love? Really, truly in love? Or had I just been in love with the idea of being in love, of having someone, of following the expected path? And Ryan. I thought about how my heart lifted every time he called, how I always wanted to tell him things first, how safe I felt when he was around, but not safe like boring safe like home, how I'd never questioned why he was single because, in some selfish part of my heart, I liked that he was always available, always there for me. Oh, no. Ryan, I turned around, and he was standing exactly where I'd left him, looking like he was bracing for impact. When Derek proposed, do you know what I thought about? He shook his head. I thought about you. I thought about how I needed to tell you first, before I even said yes. And then I wondered why that was my first instinct. Why telling you mattered more than the proposal itself. And when I found out he was cheating, when I read about Sarah in his journal, do you know what hurt the most? It wasn't losing Derek. It was the betrayal, yes, but more than that, ... It was relief. I felt relieved, Ryan, and I couldn't figure out why until right now. I crossed the room until I was standing in front of him. I think I've been in love with you too. Maybe not for 8 years. Or maybe I have, and I just couldn't see it because you were supposed to be my best friend. I was too scared to risk that. But Ryan, when you walk into a room, everything gets better. When you're not around, I miss you. When something good happens, you're the first person I want to tell. And when Derek left, the only person I wanted was you. What are you saying? His voice was rough, hopeful. I'm saying that maybe the pottery instructor was right. Maybe the way you look at me is special. And maybe the way I look at you is too, and I've just been too blind to see it. Emma. He reached up, cupping my face with both hands. Are you sure? Because if we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back to just friends. And I need you to be absolutely sure, because losing you entirely would destroy me. I covered his hands with mine. I've never been more sure of anything. Kiss me, Ryan. Please. He did. It wasn't like the movies. There were no fireworks, no swelling music. But it was better. It was Ryan's lips on mine, soft and careful and perfect. It was his hands in my hair, mine clutching his shirt. It was 8 years of unspoken feelings, finally being expressed. When we pulled apart, both breathing hard, Ryan rested his forehead against mine. I've dreamed about doing that for so long, he whispered. Yeah, I smiled. How does reality compare? So much better, he said, because you're kissing me back. I woke up in Ryan's arms, and for the first time in weeks, I felt genuinely happy. We'd stayed up half the night talking, kissing, making up for lost time. He'd told me about all the times he'd almost confessed by college graduation. At my first apartment, the night before Derek proposed, and I'd told him about all the moments I'd felt something but pushed it away, too afraid to examine what it meant. "Good morning," Ryan murmured, his voice sleepy. "Good morning," I said, turning to face him. His hair was even messier than usual, and there was a pillow crease on his cheek. He was beautiful. I was afraid this was a dream, he admitted, pulling me closer. If it is, I don't want to wake up. We'll lay there for a while, just existing together in this new dynamic. Finally, Ryan spoke. "So what now?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, what do we tell people? How do we do this?" "You just got out of an engagement." I don't want people thinking I'm some kind of rebound or that I took advantage." I put a finger on his lips. "First of all, anyone who knows us would never think that. Second, we don't have to tell anyone anything right now. We can take this slow, figure it out as we go, but eventually." "Eventually," I said, smiling, "I want to tell everyone. I want to change your contact name in my phone from best friend Ryan to just Ryan with like 1,000 heart emojis. I want to hold your hand in public and kiss you goodbye and do all the normal relationship things, but only when we're both ready." He kissed my forehead. "I've been ready for 8 years, and I guess I better catch up," I teased. 3 months later, we decided it was time. We'd kept our relationship quiet, stealing moments together, learning how to be partners as well as best friends. It had been the happiest 3 months of my life. We planned a dinner party casual, just our closest friends. The same people who'd watched me fall apart after Derek, who'd probably noticed Ryan and I had gotten even closer lately. "Are you nervous?" Ryan asked as we prepared food in my kitchen, our kitchen, really, since he'd basically moved in. "Terrified," I admitted. "What if they think it's weird? What if they think we move too fast?" "Then they're not really our friends," he said simply. "But they will be happy for us. I promise." When everyone arrived, I could feel the curious glances. Ryan and I were standing closer than we used to, and he kept touching my lower back in a decidedly non-platonic way. Finally, over dessert, our friend Michelle couldn't take it anymore. "Okay, what is going on with you two?" she demanded. "You're being weird." I looked at Ryan, who nodded encouragingly. "We're together," I said simply. Ryan and I were dating. The table erupted. Finally, Michelle shouted, "I knew it." Someone else said, "You owe me $50. Another friend told their partner. "Wait," I said, laughing. "You all bet on this?" "Emma," Michelle said, like I was being particularly dense. "We've all known Ryan was in love with you since college, and we've been waiting for you to figure out you felt the same way." "It was painful to watch," another friend added. "Like, really painful. We had a group chat about it." I looked at Ryan, who was grinning. "A group chat? Called When Will Emma Figure It Out?" Michelle confirmed. Very active chat, by the way. Despite my embarrassment, I was laughing. "I can't believe you all knew." "Honey, everyone knew except you two," Michelle said. "So what finally made you open your eyes?" I squeezed Ryan's hand under the table. "I guess it took losing someone I thought I loved to realize the person I actually loved was right there all along. Not everyone was supportive. Derek, predictably, had opinions. He'd started texting me again a few months into my relationship with Ryan, full of apologies and claims that he'd made a mistake. When I told him I'd moved on, he'd been shocked. "With who?" He'd texted, "That's not your business," but of course he'd found out. And of course, he'd shown up at my apartment one evening when Ryan was there. "You've got to be kidding me," Derek said when Ryan answered the door. "With your best friend? How long was this going on, Emma?" "That's rich coming from you," I said, coming to stand beside Ryan, the guy who cheated for 6 months. "I knew it," Derek said, his face reddening. "I knew there was something between you two. That's why it never felt right with us, isn't it? Because you were always thinking about him." "No," I said firmly. "It didn't feel right because you were a terrible partner who lied and cheated." Don't you dare try to make this my fault. How long after I left did you run to him? A week? A day? Ryan stepped forward, his voice dangerously calm. That's enough. You don't get to come here and accuse Emma of anything. You broke her heart. I helped pick up the pieces. And yes, somewhere in that process, we realized what we should have known all along, that we belonged together. But unlike you, we were honest about it. This is insane, Derek said. You're going to throw away 8 years of friendship? For what? Some rebound relationship? We're not throwing away our friendship, I said. We're building on it. Something you clearly don't understand, since you threw away a 3-year relationship for a 6-month affair. And I could see him trying to find another angle, another way to make himself the victim. Finally, he just shook his head. You two deserve each other, he said bitterly. Thank you, Ryan said pleasantly. We think so too. Now get out. After Derek left, I collapsed on the couch, shaking slightly. You okay? Ryan sat beside me, pulling me close. Yeah, I said. Actually, I'm better than okay. Because for the first time, I stood up to him. I didn't apologize or feel guilty. I just told the truth. I'm proud of you, Ryan said, kissing my temple. He was right about one thing, though, I said. What's that? We do deserve each other. Just not in the way he meant. A year after the night Ryan confessed his feelings, we were back at that pottery class. We'd become regulars, and while our bowls were still a bit lopsided, they were recognizably bowls now. Remember the first time we came here? I asked as we worked. How could I forget? Ryan said. The instructor thought we were a couple, and I nearly had a heart attack. And now we are, I said, smiling. A couple who's terrible at pottery? Speak for yourself, he said, showing me his bowl. This is art. That's generous, I teased. As we cleaned up, Ryan suddenly seemed nervous. He kept checking his pockets, which was odd. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, just come here for a second. He'd led me to a quiet corner of the studio where he'd apparently set up earlier. There was a single pottery bowl on display. Unlike our usual attempts, this one was perfect. Inside it were flower petals, and nestled among them was a small box. My heart stopped. Ryan, ... I made that 3 months ago, he said, taking the box out. I've been taking extra classes, staying late, working with the instructor, because I wanted something special for this moment. He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. Emma. I've loved you for 8 years as a friend and 1 year as a partner, and I want to love you for the rest of my life as your husband. You're my best friend, my favorite person, my home. Will you marry me? I was crying, nodding before I could even speak. Yes, of course, yes. He slipped the ring on my finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he kissed me, and I could taste tears, his or mine. I wasn't sure. I was so nervous, he admitted when we pulled apart. What if you weren't ready? What if it was too soon? Ryan, I said, holding his face in my hands. I've been ready since the moment you walked into my apartment that night and made me pancakes. Maybe even before that. Maybe I've been waiting my whole life for you, I just didn't know it. 6 months later, I stood in a small garden, wearing a simple white dress, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. In front of me, Ryan waited in a dark suit, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Our friends and family surrounded us, the same people who'd watched our story unfold, who'd known before we did that we belonged together. When Emma and Ryan asked me to officiate, Michelle was saying, I told them I'd been waiting years for this moment. See, I've watched these two dance around each other since college. I've watched them be there for each other through everything, good times and bad, triumphs and heartbreaks. And I always knew that when they finally figured it out, it would be epic. I couldn't stop smiling. Couldn't stop looking at Ryan, who was looking back at me like I was the only person in the world. The vows. Michelle prompted. Ryan took my hands. Emma, you once asked me why I didn't have a girlfriend. The truth was, I couldn't see anyone else, because I'd already found the love of my life. She borrowed my pen in college and never gave it back. She called me first with good news and bad. She made me want to be better, kinder, more patient. And when she finally merely saw me as more than just her best friend. It was the happiest moment of my life. I promised to always be your friend first, your partner always, and your biggest supporter forever. I promised to make you pancakes when you're sad, and to sign us up for pottery classes when you need a laugh. I promised to choose you every single day, for the rest of our lives. I was crying now, but they were happy tears. Orion, I began, my voice shaking when my world fell apart. You walked in and everything changed. You reminded me who I was, showed me what love should look like, and gave me the courage to reach for what I really wanted. You've been my best friend, my safe place, my home, and now you get to be my husband. I promise to laugh at your terrible jokes, even the ones I've heard 100 times. I promise to let you make me coffee, even though mine is better. I promise to love you as my best friend and my soulmate, today and every day after. When Michelle pronounced us married and Ryan kissed me, our friends erupted in cheers, but I barely heard them. All I heard was Ryan whispering against my lips, "I love you, Mrs. Best Friend." "I love you too," I whispered back. Later at the reception, I watched Ryan dance with his mom, both of them laughing. Michelle came to stand beside me. "You know what the best part is?" she said. "What?" "You didn't just get a husband today. You kept your best friend too. That's rare, Emma. That's special." She was right. I'd found something most people spend their whole lives searching for, a love built on friendship, trust, and 8 years of saying I love you without words. Until finally, we said it out loud. Ryan caught my eye across the dance floor and smiled. That same smile that had been making my heart skip for longer than I'd admitted. I smiled back, thinking about the pottery instructor who'd seen what I couldn't. About Derek's text that had seemed like the end, but was really the beginning. About Ryan walking into my apartment that terrible night and changing everything. Because that's what real love does. It walks in when everything is falling apart and helps you build something better. It waits patiently, loves quietly, and when the time is finally right, it speaks up and changes everything. Ryan crossed the room to me, holding out his hand. "Dance with me, wife." "Always, husband," I said, taking his hand and letting him pull me close. And as we swayed together, surrounded by everyone who loved us, I thought about how sometimes the best love story is the one that was there all along, just waiting for you to open your eyes and see it, the end.